Good afternoon YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. In this video today I'm headed out to a stately home in Ayrshire called Dumfries House. Now it's over 300 years old, it sits in a 2,000 acre estate and it's really quite stunning. Now, if you already follow the channel, you might have picked up that this week I've had a real disaster with technology, with the weather, all sorts of things. So much so that I've had to throw away 3 vlogs, and I almost had to do the same with this one, guys. But what I've decided to do is I still have some GoPro footage on the way to Dumfries House, although the sound quality is not good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a little bit of music on that on the route there, and I'm also going to do a little bit of a voiceover. So let's see how it turns out. Stay tuned. Lovely here though, eh? All those autumn colours are changing. Browns and yellows and stuff. Stunning. Interesting. Let's turn this around. I'm going to come back here, but I'm going to go in a different entrance to get to this side. Don't want to get any trouble. You find a lot of people in this area will come here, they'll come walking, bring their dogs down, all that sort of stuff. The estate itself is about 2,000 acres, so it's really big. Now, a lot of work's been done to sort of really upgrade the area. When I was a kid, this was just forest. You know, they've thinned a lot of it out, and fields and stuff belonging to farmers. But if memory serves me correctly, this area just behind me, I can remember ruins in there. Now when you look around this area now, how it's all landscaped and the amount of work and stuff they've done on this now, but believe it or not, during the Second World War, this used to be a military training ground. Then about halfway through the Second World War, it was converted into a prisoner of war camp. And then after the war, it was used as a repatriation area for Polish soldiers returning back from Europe. Now, as nice as this area is, that's not really why I'm here. It's part of the estate. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to skip back up this road and come round into the main entrance here, where the estate is, and we'll talk about Dumfries House itself. '71. This little building here behind me is the Ducot, and this would have been for keeping birds or doves. This actually dates back to around 1671. That's the earliest date on there. There's a later date as well in the 1830s, but that I believe was something to do with restoration work. But this building itself actually out or predates the main house across the water here. Look at the size of this thing. Would you look at this building? I used to come down here as a kid. It was almost about to go derelict. Wow, what a building. This building's over 300 years old, as you can probably tell. And it's really quite stunning, it's got to be said. I forgot how nice it was actually, because it's a while since I've been here. But this building was actually built and designed by Robert Adam and John Adam. That's the same architects who built Culzean and who built the Warren Castles. Prior to the 1700s, this estate was known as Loch Norris, and it belonged to the Crawfords of Loudon. But in the 1700s, it was taken over by William Dalrymple, who's the Earl of Dumfries, or who was the Earl of Dumfries, obviously. And he commissioned the building of this stately home here. But it was later inherited by the Marquis of Bute around, I think it was about 1814, something like that. So the estate and the house here belonged to the Marquises of Bute right up until 2007, at which point it was sold to the Prince's Trust for, I think it was around £45 million. And when the house was taken over, not a lot of work had been done on it in perhaps about 100 years or so, apart from restoration of the roof, which happened in the 1990s. And that's because in the 1990s the Marquis of Bute actually tried to sell this to the National Trust, but because of the amount of work that was involved in it, they didn't want to take it on. So believe it or not, this great stately home here nearly went the same way as houses like Dilwarren. It's easy to imagine how this building could quite easily have become yet another derelict mansion house. So, 2007, Prince Charles and the Prince's Trust, they get involved and they spend £45 million buying this house and the estate that it sits on. It's a 2,000 acre estate, so 45 million. Now, we might think that's a lot of money, but it turns out it's a little bit of a bargain, to be honest. And that's because when the Prince's Trust actually bought this house, they bought it along with the furniture that's in the house. Now, it turns out that the furniture in this house is one of the best complete collections of Chippendale furniture anywhere in the world. So, Chippendale furniture, big deal. What does that mean? The plan initially here was to sell off the house and the estate, and the furniture and everything inside the house was to be sold off separately. Now, to put that into perspective for you,
it's too priceless. You don't want to touch this with our bare hand. That chair was £4.50 originally. But of course, he didn't just buy one, he bought 14. There was a similar chair which was sold at an auction a few years ago for £1.4 million.
There are single pieces of furniture in this building, single items, that range anywhere in value from £4 million to £20 million.
£20 million.
And by the way, it's full of furniture, okay, but there's a single piece of Chippendale in there that's valued approximately £20 million. Bargain. Wow, look at the back of this as well. Amazing. So if those pieces had started to be auctioned off, then the value of this would be nowhere near where it is now. But believe it or not, when the Prince's Trust actually acquired this building, that furniture was already in trucks. It was halfway to London. Now, whether it was by royal decree or what the intervention was, they were actually stopped. Those trucks were stopped in the middle of the night in Cumbria, 2 in the morning. Yeah, the trucks were turned round and all that furniture was brought back, and it still sits here today. Now, apart from the obvious value of the estate grounds, the house itself, and obviously all the furniture, fixtures and fittings, the estate itself is pretty much self-sustaining now. In fact, it probably turns a profit. Apart from like the obvious tours and stuff that you can get in these places, there's a lodge at the entrance here which is a hotel. Yeah, I think that used to be stable grounds actually. Yeah, but they host weddings and all that sort of stuff here, as obviously, as I'm sure you can imagine. It's starting to turn a pretty coin. But apart from that, it's done a lot in terms of improvement in the local area. There's a lot of jobs and stuff here. And if you get the opportunity to come here, have a real good look around the estate, have a walk around. There's lots of walled gardens and stuff. But you'll notice that area where I first came in, these are education buildings. I don't know to what extent, but I know that there are local people and groups in the community that come here to do, gardening and horticulture and that type of thing. And I remember reading somewhere that there's an oak tree in one of the walled gardens that's over 400 years old. These sort of buildings behind me here are sort of cafeteria and that type of thing. So it's a really nice place to come if you want to spend maybe an hour or two. Amazing. So there's so many interesting stories around here, but I'm going to finish off here. This used to be a well, believe it or not. It still is, obviously. But On to the fact that this used to be a military base in World War II. This was actually blown up, this well. It was blown up by French soldiers, I've just found out, which is really quite interesting. This is a great example of that education aspect I was talking about at Dumfries House, because this well was reconstructed by craftsmen and students, local students from the local area. So they're obviously learning sort of stonemasonry and that type of thing. It's quite remarkable. It's an incredible story. So as usual, and as you can see, I've been cut out in the dark here, folks. Listen, see if you're in Ayrshire, Dumfries House is well worth a visit, it really is. Yeah, there's so many things to see and do. You can spend hours here, quite honestly. Some people spend hours here every weekend, you know, walking around and doing their thing. Anyway, that's it for this one, folks. I really hope you liked it. If you did, give me a thumbs up, subscribe down below, and I'll see you in the next one.